I'm Rick Trosi. I run Silicon Florist and Pi, and I said, yes, we will make an opportunity for you to speak, and that's what this wound up being. So thank you for joining us. You guys get to hear from me plenty, so I'm going to hand it over to Paul to give his talk, but just so you know, experience with Etsy, experience with Code for America, and experience with a Y Combinator startup, among many other things. So hopefully some really insightful stuff for you. Paul?
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys. Rick is like the Fred Wilson of Portland, right? He's like this
with no money
that you can't stop. No, it was awesome. I was here for the whole month. I live in New York City, and my fiance lives here, so we live on opposite coasts. And so I emailed Rick, and I was like, hey, I'd really like to talk. I'll do anything. It would be awesome to talk. So he pulled us together. Thanks, Urban Airship, for having me here with a disco ball. That's definitely my style. So yeah, the talk is called Data Culture Networks People, or How to Be a Total Baller on Executing on Ideas, right? So that's pretty much the whole point of the talk, is that I want to be a total baller. I am usually not, but I try. I want to see other people be total ballers. I want everybody to make their dreams come true. So that's really what's going on here. So a little bit about me. Rick got into it. And I was an early hire at Etsy. I built the second version of Etsy.com. And that version of Etsy lasted all the way until April 1st of last year. Right? So I was there when there was only tens of thousands of users or so. And I was there until there were well past millions of users. I scaled Etsy. I wrote the first search engine there. I've done search pretty much at every other company after that point, right? Because in the early days of Etsy, that was when real-time search was sort of coming out. It was pretty nutty. I left Etsy to do my own startup, Arshelf. That was funded by Dream Adventures, so that was my first sort of accelerator or incubator. Arshelf was pretty cool. It was a social cataloging site. You cataloged all the stuff you own, right? So we wanted to empower users through the things they own and the people they know. It's like a mint.com for your physical life. So there was a small successful exit with that. I sort of bounced around for a little bit. I was an entrepreneur in residence at DreamIt. I was a CTO, interim CTO for some other startups. I contracted on this crazy project at Comcast. And then I hooked up with Jen and we got Code for America off the ground. So I was literally the only engineer at Code for America, being like, here's how you technically tackle Gov 2.0 problems. And once it looked like Code for America was indeed going to be pretty successful, we got a real technical director in place and I stepped out because I'm not that role. And then I moved on to Push Button Labs, which was like a game company, right? They built game technology for next generation social games. It was really cool. And I worked on a bunch of crazy stuff there. And then that was a pretty large, successful exit. And then, now I'm the VP of engineering at TutorSpring, right? So I've got some pretty good startup experience. I understand how to really execute on certain things. I definitely understand technology. Before all of those things, I did research in autonomic computing. So if you got curious who's Paul deGrandis and you start Googling around, you're like, what's all these publications? This kid's way too academic to talk about startups. That's where that comes from. I always try to contribute to open source. Some of the best projects I've worked on, PyPy and Clojure. And like I said, I'm the VP of engineering at TutorSpring. So if you went to the About page on TutorSpring, you saw this picture. But right before this picture, you saw like these glorious pictures of the founders, right? They were beautiful. They're like professional photographer came in, beautiful lighting, and their faces are bright, and they're so happy. And you see those three pictures, and then you see mine. I look like the biggest dick in the entire world. I hate everybody right now. And I just want to take the time, now that I have an audience, I want to clear this up. I don't hate everybody. I'm just drinking beer on a boat, and I happen to wear a long sleeve shirt. Now, I don't know why long sleeves in July was a good idea, but just having a good time, chillaxing, and I'm pretty happy I got to get that off my chest. Thank you, everybody. So the real goal is to always make something that people want, right? It doesn't matter who you are or what you're doing. You can be doing anything, right? You could be building this awesome piece of plastic and creating an awesome jingle to go along with it, right? You could be a doctor trying to get patients. You could be a tech startup guy. You could do anything, contributing to open source, right? Your goal is always to make something that people want. So then I started thinking, okay, well, professionally, when was I at my best? When was I really making something that people want? When was I doing that? It's like, okay, well, Etsy was pretty cool, Airship, not so cool, you know. And then I realized, I just had to think like, when did I feel like Chuck Norris, right? When did I feel so badass that nothing could stop me? That I was destroying everything in my path, right? Because that's when I was really being a true follower. I was being Chuck Norris in my brain. On the outside, I probably just looked like a dude who was at his computer, but in my brain, I was like, oh, so much ass to kick. And then it came to me, right? That's what I look like, not Chuck Norris, right? I look like this guy. And 4 things were always happening every time I was doing something great. I was surrounded with objective data, right? I had real facts, real quantifiable information that was telling me, this is what you need to build. This is what people want. These are real numbers, right? I was immersed in an ideal culture. So this is sort of like a theme that's been like going on in my head for about 6 months now. Right? People always say it's the team that builds the winning product, right? If you have the winning team, you get the winning product, right? So then the real problem is, how do I build the winning team, right? And I'm almost certain at this point that you create a culture where that team naturally forms, and then you don't even have to think about the product because the natural output is the product, right? So stop focusing on the product. You know the product is going to exist because you have that objective data. So just focus on that culture piece and the rest automatically will happen. And that's way easier, right? Culture is just like hey, we take Fridays to work on open source, right? You gotta think like that. And then, boom, you sold a startup, right? So that's the idea. And I was backed by a powerful network. And I don't mean like I had awesome DSL. I mean, I had like a great network of people, right? Like think of Etsy, right? So Etsy.com is this marketplace for handmade goods. It's international at this point, right? But if you didn't have Etsy, what would the world be like? Well, there's all these small communities of crafters and do-it-yourselfers, right? Do-it-yourself is like a culture. It's like a life culture. These people bleed for this, right? And those people are so well connected, but only in small communities. So if you made them all connected on the internet, well, that's a huge network. It's a huge, powerful network. So I was backed by a powerful network, and every success that I had like this beautiful group of people that were naturally wanted to be connected or were already connected. And I was paired with the best people, right? I just had the best management people. I had the best product people. I had the best developers. But I really think that gets back to the second point, right? I think I had the best people only because I had this great culture. And I also had the best customers, right? It's not just my team was great, I really had the best customers ever. They were willing to tolerate a bunch of BS and go through really hard products until they got what they actually wanted. But before you get to all of this stuff, it's like, okay, well, here's these 4 things. They're sort of big things, right? How do I even get to objective data? How do I even get to the culture piece, right? It really starts with 2 pretty simple questions, and I'm totally stealing this, right? I'm not so smart that all of this stuff is new information. I'm stealing all of this, and I'm stealing this particular point from this awesome book that everybody should have. It was written quite a long time ago, and it will tell you the ultimate guidebook for building awesome things constantly, right? It comes back to why and how, right? So let's take Tutor Spree for the example here. Why Tutor Spree, right? Why is that something that people want? Tutor Spree is a marketplace for personalized one-on-one education. So why do that? Well, let's go back, way back in history. Alexander the Great was tutored by Aristotle, right? That's how Alexander the Great learned everything. That's why he was great, right? So let's go back, not so far back in history. John von Neumann and Richard Feynman, right? So leaders of their field got personal education. In fact, it's not until roughly around the Industrial Revolution that we see classrooms for education. So Tutor Spree is like, well, what if we could build everybody into a Richard Feynman or into an Alexander the Great? And what if we could always pair people with the best possible educator for whatever they want to learn, right? Here's a group of roughly 65 people. Who's the best person in this entire room to teach you biology or programming in Python or quantum physics or anything, right? I don't know. You probably don't know. So why don't we solve that problem? All right, so we've got a why. There's a motivation for building something that people really want, education. So how are we going to do that? Well, I sort of was hinting at that, like, if I could figure out your learning style and everybody else's teaching style, and really what you wanted out of your education, and all the things they're capable of delivering, well, I could probably make a pretty good pair. I could at least get better than a random, right? You go online right now and you're like, oh, I'm going to search Craigslist. Oh, I'm going to look at a bulletin board downtown to find a guitar tutor or something. Okay, well, that's pretty good. It's slightly better than random. But if I can do even better than that, I've already won, right? That's success at that point. All right, so I've got a how. So then what do I build? Well, that's easy, right? I just need to build a how. Right? I already know. I need to build an engine that matches people based on their learning styles and their teaching styles, right? I need to learn how to do that. How do I detect your learning style? How do I detect your teaching style? If I do that one thing, I get the how. If I get the how, I've done the why, and if I deliver the why, I've given you something you want, right? I'm almost guaranteed to have buy-in from somebody. So you really just start with why and how, and then the what will fall out. So let's talk about these 4 things that I say, for some reason, are worth paying attention to. By the way, this trend of drinking beer while presenting is awesome. It doesn't exist anywhere else except for this city. But also rogue. It's like, I might expect beer, but it would be like, oh, here's like a Bud Light. Have fun with that. No. So yeah, thanks for the beer, everybody. I mean, Urban Airship. So objective data, right? The giant shoulders. Your data is like your Legos, right? If you have one Lego, it's stupid, right? It doesn't do anything unless like you need to be roughly 1 inch taller and you're really good at balancing on a Lego, right? That's all one Lego is good for. If you have a bunch of Legos, you can build this guy, right? If I had enough Legos and a really good imagination and maybe like 6 months of time, I could build that. If I had unlimited Legos, if I had a Lego making machine that just made Legos as I used more Legos, I could build a city, right? I could build a building. So data, your Legos. The more Legos you have, the more envious all the other kids on the playground are. And that's what you need to go for, right? Data is how you get these 3 very important things. The first important thing data gets you is it validates something. And it tells you if you're building something that people want. And that's the first step. If you can't do that first step, stop and do something else. Because you've already failed at that point, which is fine. I mean, you'll want to fail at the data step, not 5 years down the road when you realize you never did that, right? The next thing it does is it informs. So I'll give you a really good example here. Let's take Tutors Free again, right? So I need to learn about people's learning styles and their teaching styles. I have no background in learning styles or teaching styles. I have no idea what that even means until I decided, oh, I'll go to scholar.google.com, Google Scholar, I'll type in learning styles, and I'll find the most cited paper. And then I'll read it. And I might not understand a lot of it, but I'll get something. And that's the first step, right? I'm informing myself what I need to do. Your problems have already been solved, right? You're not going to build something new. That's totally naive. So find out what everybody else has already done, right? I found out somebody has written a Bayesian network, basically a way to learn learning styles already, and it's only based on forum messages. And that's perfect because I have emails, right? So the largest, hardest part of my problem already solved. I just had to replicate whatever was done in that paper, and I won. I did it because I informed myself how to do this thing, right? Those answers are out there, you just have to dig them out. The next thing you do with your data is you enhance. So let's think of another really good example. Solid. He means, but that's a baller. If you want to see a baller, that guy. The next thing you do with your data is you enhance, right? So imagine if I could learn everybody's learning style and everybody's teaching style, right? I could use that data to enhance the application. I could be like, oh, here's the percent match of the tutor you're looking at. Like I could start giving, LinkedIn is another really good example, right? Notice how LinkedIn started using all of this data they had to finally do something interesting with it, right? It was so boring. That experience was so boring for so long. And now it's cool. It's like, people have viewed this. People, trends and stuff. Jobs that apply to you. By the way, Maybe you want to learn this new skill. It's like, all right, finally LinkedIn, you're doing something with your data. You're finally enhancing this experience. It's like not looking at a chalkboard anymore, which was stupid. But now it's cool. So that's the last step. The very first step you need to do is this actually going to work? The next step you need to do is, how do I even do this? And then the third step you do is like, all right, I've done this. Now it's time to get really cool. I'll give you an example of how even if you fail, you can still succeed, but try not to fail. Our shelf, my baby, I only did those two, right? I skipped the first step. I was like, no way, this is going to be so cool. I'll tell you the entire story in gruesome detail. So, I was like, all right, I'm going to build a social cataloging site. I'm going to let people catalog all the stuff they own. Then I'm going to like build other really cool technology with that information, right? It'd be cool if I could take all of this data that marketers are using against us to finally use it for us, right? To write consumer-based, products. And so I started the inform stuff. I was like, all right, how do I build like this cataloging engine? How do I normalize all these things? How do I build a search engine on top of this? How do I build a recommendation engine, right? The recommendation engine for our shelf's awesome. I like this plaid shirt. I wear green shoes. I want to buy this digital camera, right? It could do that because it had like this. Imagine like your social circle here, and then everybody's items hanging off of it, right? So I have this big three-dimensional piece of data. And I could like crawl through that thing. I could tell you crazy stuff about people. I could like trend the keeping up with the Joneses thing, right? Like, Kevin here buys black shoes. How much longer does it take for me to buy black shoes? Well, probably like a week, because Kevin's a really cool dude, right? So I could track that stuff. And then the next piece was like, oh, I'm really going to enhance this. I'm really going to do something cool with the data. I'm going to build an auto shopper. So I need to get a new pair of shoes, our shelf, and I need them in a week, and I want them to cost less than $65. Crawl all of your data, crawl all the deals on the internet, and find me the top 3 choices. I need it in a week, right? I built this. It's awesome. Investors love this sort of thing. Except, guess what? Guess what? Pinterest is way easier, right? Pinterest is the stupidest idea. Pinterest and our shelf came out nearly at the exact same time, and I saw Pinterest and I was like, no way. This thing's going down in like maybe a couple of months, maybe a year, because it was just a really bad delicious, right? Pinterest is the worst delicious ever. They're just cataloging links and they were like, hey, let's scrape for an image tag. Come on, it's just taking up screen space. Nobody wants that. Turns out, ladies love it, right? Ladies love it to no end, and now I love it. I'm not even a lady, and I love it. I love it. And but people don't want to catalog things they own. They just want to like, oh, that's a cool shoe. It's like, okay. So I was totally wrong. I totally skipped the first step. I was so close to making this say Pinterest, and I didn't, right? I made it say our shelf, and I did way cool stuff, but, it didn't work out. And that's the lesson to I could have been Pinterest, right? So let's talk about culture, because this is an awesome, awesome thing to focus on, right? If you can solve a problem without software, huge win, right? If your problem gets solved simply by changing somebody's culture or opinion, do that, because it's easier than building and maintaining software, right? If I can just like change everybody's mindset to do something else, and that something else is my branded product, well, once I get enough momentum of people doing that, everybody will do it. Skip it, right? So there's internal culture and external culture, right? So there's this culture of your company. Etsy is the best example of this. When I was part of Etsy's culture and building that culture, it was like, we were unstoppable. It's the best place to work. In my opinion, still very much is, and it's because they optimize for developer happiness. And basically everything you could ever want as a developer. The way you approach problems, the way people talk about problems, the tools you have, the technology you use, the way people communicate, how they talk, how encouraging they are, it's like everything is built to have great developers solving the hardest problems they can possibly come across. And it's not even that they care so much about solving Etsy's problem, but they definitely have like this do-it-yourself, I want to build something huge mentality. And when you put all of those people in one room or in one IRC chat room, they can solve absolutely everything, right? It's like unstoppable. And it's not just developers that they optimize for, right? This is the only one they talk about. There's like videos of Chad talking about this, the now CEO. but they optimize for like designer happiness and product manager happiness, right? Like they did a really good job optimizing the silos without actually making silos at all. So everybody just wanted to solve every problem and do an awesome job. It's like they optimized for employee happiness at like this huge level. And if you go back and you start looking at revenue figures of Etsy from the very beginning until, I don't know, I haven't really looked at them recently, but Etsy was only barely profitable every so often. It was because every time Etsy made more money, they were like, hey, employees, you all get way more money now. It's like, so they just kept dancing this line, and people loved that, right? It was awesome. But because they built this awesome culture inside the company, they got the best talent that made Etsy, right? Like, we couldn't stop working on it. And then the external culture for Etsy is amazing, right? It begs for Etsy if Etsy doesn't exist, right? Somebody took the time to knit this thing, or whatever this craft is, pin art, or whatever, needlework, something, right? But they took the time to build their lifestyle into a piece of art and sell it to somebody else. Like, this is meta culture, right? It's not even one level up, it's 2 levels up. And now there's publications and all of this other stuff, and the culture can't be stopped, right? You can't stop an idea or a lifestyle, it's too hard. But if you can jump on the back of it and ride it through town, well, you should do it because you have an instant audience that wants the product that you're building, right? This trend is the best trend ever. So I did a guest post on the blog. It was great to write, but I called it digitizing the analog, also more commonly called bringing the offline online, right? So Etsy is a great example of this also, to some degree. Tutor's free, but you take something that exists offline, so craft fairs or crafters in small communities offline, and you bring them online. Don't do anything else. Don't add any whistles, don't put bells, just bring the community online and watch what happens. Like, you'll have an instant win. It's impossible to fail if you do it right. The worst thing you can do is make it more complex. They don't want bells and whistles, they just want to do what they do, right? They want to make this thing right here. So that's it. So just give them a way to do that. I already talked about the non-technical solution. It's the best solution you could ever do. Networks, the hidden gem, right? We're going to talk about both of these because they mean something. So sticking with the Etsy theme for a little while, and then we'll jump to meetup.com. Etsy's real power, and the power of any sort of digital network, I guess, it's in the edges. It's as far out in the network as you can get. All of those sellers, every single time we get one of those communities of people online, the network becomes more powerful. There's more products in the marketplace, there's more communication, there's more correspondence, there's the camaraderie, the lifestyles online, right? It's really the power of bringing the offline online is those edges. Same thing in Tutors Free, right? Tutors, those are our edges. Getting those all connected together, that's the power of Tutors Free. The more tutors we can get, the more I can learn about people's learning styles and teaching styles, the better tutors I can give to you, right? So the power is always in the edges. There's a lot of insight, a lot of objective data that you can pull out from the structure of a network, right? I don't even have to tell you what these pictures are, but already you can probably tell me some facts that I can't dispute, right? The first picture up top, 2 big blobs. Well, that tells me one fact without even knowing it. This community is split. And there's almost no connection between the two, right? You're either in group A or you're in group B. Or you're somewhere on the very outside and I really don't care, right? I just care about this and this other thing. And there's a lot of information in that, right? Let's take a look at the next piece, right? Oh, this looks a lot like Etsy, right? Oh, there's little communities everywhere. People are connected through like weird connections. Almost everybody actually gets connected at some point. And then right smack dab in the middle is the power player, right? This is the true baller of the network. He pretty much, or she, runs the show. This is like the person who posts in caps on the forums, and everybody like responds, even if it's a flame, but everybody responds, right? That's that person. So, but if you study the insides of these and you can see the trends of how people are operating in the network, you can build technology that works just for that piece, right? That's an instant win. If I can build a product that I say, oh, you know what? I'm only going to build a product for this person. Why would I do that? Well, because whatever they do, so does everybody else eventually, right? So I'll build a product for the center of the graph. I'll drop it in. They'll adopt it. They'll write this forum post in all caps. Oh my God, OMG, lolcats, lasers, you know? And then before you know it, I've got the whole network on board. This one is really hard to deal with. So I promised I would talk about meetup.com. Meetup's pretty cool, right? Here's a group of people. They do stuff that you do. Go hang out with them and talk and drink beer, usually. That's cool, that's helpful. But Meetup's sort of like in this LinkedIn spot right now. So Meetup is aggressively starting to dig through the network structure and their data. And I went over one day, their office is right down the street from the Tutor Spree office. They're like, hey Paul, take a look at this network, tell us what you think. It's like, okay, yeah, let's do some data science, I'll dig in. And I was like, whoa. They're like, yeah, I know, right? So Meetup's real goal isn't to tell you what group to join. Like, they want to tell you the person you should meet, right? That's a harder problem to solve, but they have the network data to solve it, right? They can do it in very controlled environments to introduce you to the person that you're supposed to meet. That's awesome, right? That's like an automatic pseudo-dating adventure group site, right? I don't even know what that is, but it's awesome, right? And that solves a real problem. How do I meet somebody that I need to meet? It's the same Tutor Spree problem, right? How do I find the perfect person to teach me the jig or something? I don't know, something really obscure. And that's the innovation in the data part, right? Tutor Spree, all we do is machine learning. It's like a really sort of low-level, crude marketplace listing site, and you're like, what is this? Why is Paul spending time on this? What a waste. And then you dig into it and you look behind the scenes and you're like, oh man, he's detecting everybody's learning styles and teaching styles, and he's making pairs, and he's doing machine learning. And he's doing it because he's looking at all this network structure. And again, that wasn't my idea. I just read this book right here that's written for everybody, from doctors to lawyers to software people. This book has no math in it unless you read the optional math chapters. And it is awesome. It will tell you everything you need to know about doing awesome stuff with networks. It's called Networks, Crowds, and Markets, if it's too small to read in the back. And people, the team. So all this other stuff's really, really cool. And you should use whatever pieces of it that you want to use. But really at the end of the day, all you have is each other, right? So like Tutor Spree could totally fail. We could not make it happen. We couldn't make something that people wanted. But at the end of the day, like, I still have this great team and really close friends made through the team. And like, we could probably take on another problem. So don't lose sight of that, right? It's more important to have great people that you're paired with than it is to make sure you're solving the right problem, because eventually you'll solve the right problem. Just don't forget the validate step and not make Pinterest, right? So have a great team and make Pinterest is what I'm trying to tell everybody to do. I'm really on a Pinterest kick, I don't know why. So people, getting to fuck yeah, right? There's this book, Getting to Yes, and it's a good book, and you probably should read it at some point. I didn't read it until much later, but I don't want to get to yes, because yes is boring, right? Yes just means like, yeah, yes. I want to be like, yeah, fuck yeah, all right. I want that person in the middle of that network to be like cheering and shooting off fireworks in their house, right? Like that's how excited I want them to be, right? So like, let's take some examples. Zappos.com, they didn't even have shoes in stock when they started. They just opened up an office down the street from a shoe store and was like, let's try to sell these online, right? And every time they sold something online, they literally walked down the street and went to the shoe store and bought the shoes and they just mailed them out. But their whole business was just built on building a really cool experience and doing really great customer service. They didn't even have shoes, you know? It's like, you don't even need to do the thing that you're doing. You just need to win somehow by winning people over. It's like, why I love Rackspace so much. Rackspace doesn't offer me anything that somebody else doesn't offer me. with the exception of one thing, the fanatical support, right? And everybody sees this before they experience Rackspace, and they're like, oh, that's funny branding, fanatical support, cool. I get it, guys. Whatever. And then you're like, well, I guess I'll do something on Rackspace, and you do it, and then the fanatical support happens, and your life is totally different, right? You're like, you wake up the next day, and there's sun outside, and you're like, oh man, it's just so amazing, right? Their support is just so amazing, and that's why I stay with them, right? So they're not offering me anything really cool, with the exception of making me feel great and offering me awesome support, right? So that's a win. That's the Zappos Rackspace difference, right? If you need to do this eventually, so you should just do it right now because you don't even need shoes, right? That's the lesson there. You don't even need shoes. Just give them the support. So anytime you deal with people and there's no real obvious solution, it's called a wicked problem. I'm brutally like abusing that term, wicked problem, but essentially that's what it is. There's this cool book, Tackling Wicked Problems. Read it if you want, don't if you don't. It's pretty good. But really, anytime you deal with people, it's a wicked problem, and the more you can force people to love you, that should be your goal, right? You want people to love you, because the rest of it's easy after that. So here's the whole picture. I literally made a mind map of how I was going to try to tell you these 4 things. This is the mind map. I think I told you everything. This is more of a reminder for me. So about myself, I told you all of these things. The themes kept reoccurring. Here's the important parts. Data right there, inform, enhance, and validate. Networks, information at the edges, Tutor Spree, meetup.com. The raw power of culture at Etsy, that was a good example. Shoulders of the giants, do it yourself. It looks like we got everything, the soft solution. Yep, cool. So that's everything I have. Comments, questions, concerns, and before. Thanks again to everybody who helped put this talk on, and thank you all for coming. It was awesome to see a different crowd than New York City. So, thank you very much.